We're going to wait about 1 more minute and before we get started. All right, so I think that would be everyone. If they want, they can always feel free to join in during the session. But so let's get started. Hi everyone, my name is Dhivya, and in this session, we're going to continue talking about the body paragraphs in the expository essay. But first, we are gonna do like a little quiz so that we can kind of review what we did last session and in the previous sessions. Okay, so let's first go over the homework. The homework was to write an introduction paragraph, topic sentences, and just 1 or 2 words of evidence for the prompt that follows. In a well-written essay, discuss why it is important to be willing to change your mind. Okay, so since this was a homework last week, if anyone at all has any responses to this, please feel free to share that in the Q&A, just like you have typed all your questions, share that in the Q&A, or if you want to, you can share it only to me in the chat feature. So go ahead, I'm gonna give about 5 minutes for everyone to submit their responses. If you maybe forgot about it and you just wanna quickly write something, just go ahead and write it. If you have just the introduction paragraph, that's fine. If you just have topic sentences and evidence, that's fine. So any response will be fine. Remember, we're all here to learn, and I can just show you how to improve. So just go ahead, I'll give you about 5 minutes to just type in your responses and submit it in. At this time, even if you may not have completed the homework, just ask any questions you might have had about last session at all, like any questions that you had at all, just feel free to ask them as well. Okay, so about less than 2 minutes, and we're gonna move on. I don't have any responses so far. So if you do have something that you would like to share, please go ahead and do it in the Q&A. All right, I don't see anything, so let's just go ahead and get started. So this was a homework. If you want to, you can do this for next week as well, and then be prepared for the same thing happening next week, and you can share that next week with me as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So these are going to be just a quick review, just in the form of a quiz, and just put your answers in the chat or Q&A. The first question is, how many body paragraphs does an expository essay usually have? Remember, it's body paragraphs, not paragraphs in total. So just go ahead and what do you think? You can even submit it anonymously if you want to. Okay, I have one answer. Let's see how many people can get it correct. Okay. Okay, all right. And the answer to this is 2. Usually an expository essay would have 2 body paragraphs. Therefore, the total number of paragraphs that you would actually have would be 4, 1 introduction, 2 body paragraphs, and 1 conclusion. The 2 body paragraphs, remember from last time, is to explain each point of your thesis. Your thesis should have 2 reasons, and each of the body paragraphs should explain a separate reason. All right, so good job to everyone that said 2. 2 was the correct answer. All right, let's go to the next question. The next question, what is the acronym for finding good evidence? Is it people at HEB, PB&J, or PUB? All right, I have 3 answers for this question so far. And all right, the correct answer to this question is everyone who submitted was, almost everyone that submitted was correct. The answer is P at HEB. So let's see. If y'all remember, this stands for people at HEB. P is for people, H is for history, E is for events, and B is for books or literature. And it can be used as a good, as kind of a good acronym to find your evidence and make sure that you think about it for less time, because you don't want to spend your entire essay thinking about one specific part of your essay. You need to spend the correct time or proportionate time on each part. Okay. So like I said, people, you have people like Malala, Wells Crowther, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Thomas Edison, the Wright brothers, Abraham Lincoln, and even Oprah Winfrey, because she's done a lot of work in her community and work for social justice and things like that. And then you have history, you have things like World War II, Pearl Harbor, the Civil War, the Great Depression, the Vietnam War, Rwandan genocide. Events, you have the Berlin Wall falling, the Renaissance, September 11th attacks, and the Industrial Revolution. And events and history kind of go, hand in hand. Events can also be current events, the things that are going on right now. But one thing you do want to do is you want to stay away from politics. So like recently you had the Democratic National Convention, Republican National Convention that occurred. So in your essay, you would try to, want to stay away from that. Current presidents as well is not exactly the best idea either. Then you have books. You have Romeo and Juliet, The Great Gatsby, A Raisin in the Sun, and The Scarlet Ibis. I know that many of you may not have read all these books, but don't worry, when you get to high school, you can read these books. But some of these books, even for fun, you can read them as well. And these are books that we call books of literary merit. So this does not include like young adult fiction, so no like Diary of a Wimpy Kid either, or Dork Diaries or whatever other books like that. These have to be books like classics that have, like I said, literary merit. Okay. Question number 3. What is an example of a person we cannot use for evidence? You can give me just a person's name, or you can give me just a general example as well. So just type all your answers in the chat. Okay, I have one so far. Okay. Okay, nice job to everyone who answered. I have athletes, Eminem, celebrities. Again, I have athletes, and then God. Yeah, all of those options are correct. We want to try to stay away from like religion or using that as an example as well. So good job catching that. Okay, and the answer is yes. Any celebrities, and you cannot use yourself. So when you're saying, for example, when I was little, I did blah, blah, blah. So that can't be an example either. You also cannot use a person that does not exist. Like you can't make up a name that's like hypothetical. Like, for example, Tony did this, this, unless Tony was from a book of literary merit, or he was someone famous who, like I said, is not a celebrity or an athlete, you would be good. Okay. Number 4, this is kind of a tricky question, and it almost never will show up in your paper, and many students can't write a good essay using this. But the question is, what is the exception to the no athletes rule? Like I said, this exception is very difficult to include in your essay, so I would stay away from it. But some students, very few, are able to actually execute this properly. So let's see what I have. Okay, I have 2 answers so far for this. Okay, so the answer to this, the exception to the no athletes rule, is they must transcend their profession. So, like someone mentioned here, you can use Babe Ruth because they go beyond the game of sports. That is exactly correct. They can't only play sports. Like you can't talk about, for example, a basketball player doing very well in this one game, because that wouldn't add anything to the essay, and that would essentially be like the celebrity type example. So although I recommend that you don't use it, it would still be acceptable if you use an athlete that transcended their profession. That is exactly right. And Babe Ruth, one of the best examples. Okay. So now we're ready to get started with body paragraphs part 2. Body paragraphs are super complex, and they're one of the, they carry the most weight in your essay, and they're also the most important as well. So hence the part 2. So let's go ahead. Okay, so this is some banned evidence or kill list. Although they follow all of the requirements of the people, you have like MLK, Abraham Lincoln, Hitler, and Rosa Parks. Like, you know, they're all real people. They were all in history. They all made some type of impact on society, whether it's positive or very negative. So you have all of that. But the reason why many teachers put these 4 people on the ban list is because they're often overused, and they keep on saying the same thing again and again and again. Like you have MLK, you know, the I Have a Dream speech, civil rights, March on Washington, and then you have Lincoln, you know, the Emancipation Proclamation, you have Hitler, you have the Holocaust, Rosa Parks, you have the bus boycott. So all those people, they're often used in the same way too many times, and they're not unique. Remember, by using correct and unique evidence, you can actually really, really elevate your essay. and make it more interesting for the teacher to read as well, and therefore getting a higher grade. And then I also mentioned something else, YA books. I talked about this a little bit earlier when we were doing this session review. And young adult books, like, even including Twilight, The Hunger Games, even though, they might have some morals and things like that, they're not a classic that what we call well-read people might know. So again, no YA books and try to stay away from this list. And one more thing I want to mention actually about Hitler and the Holocaust. He made an impact on society that was this is often overused, and people are not able to. And one thing that people try to do to make him unique is they try to use him for positive examples, and in no way can he be used for positive examples. So the best thing to do here would be completely stay away from this whole Hitler and Holocaust idea. Someone else asked, what is YA books? YA books are just, like I said, they stand for young adult, YA, young adult. And they're generally the books that you would read in high school, for fun, or in middle school. Like I said, the Twilight series, the Hunger Games, and the Testing series, if any of you all know about that. But yes, try to stay away from those books and closer towards books like The Great Gatsby, A Raisin in the Sun, Fahrenheit 451, things like that. Pride and Prejudice is also a good one. And on to the next one. So then you might be thinking, okay, you've banned all these people that I could possibly use, so what exactly can I use? So here, what I want to do is I want to give you 2 examples. And often what I think would help you, it's a strategy to get more evidence and just to have more knowledge in general about all the things that are going on. And these are just some people that I found who are really good evidence pieces for essays. So one of them is Jack Andraka, another one is Bhagwati Agrawal. So what I want to say about this first is when you're writing something called the Video Profile Journal, that is basically a way to condense your evidence and to find out the most important parts of your evidence. So this is how I want you to do it when you're writing one. So profile journals include taking notes on a video or on an article that you're reading about a certain person, explain their importance, and also think of possible prompts, like what could they be used for? Like let's say, oh, I can use this one for an example of how someone showed determination, how someone was serving others. So those are all possible prompts that you could use. So at home, here's how I want you to kind of set it up. We're going to watch those 2 videos, and this is kind of what I want you to do. So you have notes over here. The first person is Jack Andraka, so you write all the notes from the video about him. Then you would write a paragraph that talks about, how he was important to society, what exactly he did, what he overcame. So just a short paragraph, about 2 sentences, anywhere from 2 to 3 sentences. You can write that paragraph. And then you also have, like I said, the possible prompts on the right side. So just set up your paper like this. I'll give you about a minute while I'm pulling up the video. Okay. So hopefully everyone got that set up, and we'll start with the video. Okay. And just let me know if you can't hear it.
I wake up about 5 a.m. to get ready for school, and I go through all my classes. And it missed, of course. That's electromagnetic, so.
7.5.
So it moved 2 points. Then I catch the MARC train down to Georgetown. I'm a 17-year-old high school student, and I'm also a cancer researcher who focuses on cancer diagnostics. 85% of all pancreatic cancers are diagnosed late. I was inspired by the death of a close family friend. They passed away from pancreatic cancer. They went from a perfectly healthy-looking human being into pretty much a living skeleton in 6 months. It was just a horrifying experience to watch, and I wanted to make sure that no one else had to go through that pain and suffering again. Armed with 8th grade biology, I set out to change cancer diagnostics. I didn't know anything about being in a lab. Yeah, I would blow my cells up in the centrifuge or overheat them. It was terrible. But in science, failing is like one of the best things that you can do. The breakthrough moment of this entire test, that was one of the happiest moments of that entire journey. It's like a diabetic test strip, and you just take a single drop of blood or urine or whatever you're trying to detect a protein in, and you can instantly see whether or not you have the cancers. Finding out that my test strip did work, it brought to me the mind that, hey, maybe I could help save someone's life. My major goal is to save as many lives as possible and prevent the pain that comes from like pancreatic cancer as well as other cancers. Hey, Mom.
Okay, so that was the end of the video. Okay, so let's talk about what we all wrote down. So if you guys have anything that you wrote down, just type it in and we can all talk about it together. After about 2 minutes, when a lot of people get their responses in of what they wrote down for this video, you don't have to worry about the paragraph, just what you wrote in the notes section. And then I'll talk about what I wrote in mine. So until maybe about 3:27, just type in whatever you put down on your paper. Thank you. I have one response. They gave you a lot of information. So even if you have just one thing, that's okay. Just type it in the chat. Just one sentence, maybe a few words. That's all right. Does anyone have anything for why he was important to society, what he contributed? Okay, that's good. I have 2 responses so far. Just anything you saw from the video, any takeaways from the video also would be good. Okay, I got 3 responses so far. Right, 5. Okay, let's go over it. So I have people that talked about how he started from 8th grade biology and just worked his way up, um, did his own experiments. He developed a testing device for pancreatic cancer that actually works. Then I also have, on the other hand, I have people that talked about his work ethic, how he woke up 5 a.m. to get ready for school and still was able to fit in all that work, and that he saw a problem and that he tried to fix it. So we can kind of see from there that he's a problem solver, he has a really great work ethic, and he's always willing to help people as well. And he was actually inspired by someone who was diagnosed. So that's why we have his motivation there as well. He was inspired by like seeing how other people were suffering and he wanted to help them. Okay, so this is what I wrote down. I wrote that he lost a close family friend and he was bullied at school when he was younger. He had a friend that passed away because of pancreatic cancer. He spent months researching a way to discover it faster at the age of 13 so no one else would suffer. And the basic kind of quote that I got from him was that you can achieve anything you put your mind to, because we saw he only had 8th grade biology. He, was not really super popular at school either. And he was driven by seeing his friend suffer. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we saw his motivation, his work ethic at a young age, and that out of grief and loss comes opportunity. So that was something that we saw as well. Okay, now at this time, if anyone has any possible prompts that I wrote, that they wrote for this person. I have the ones that I wrote that I'll share with you in a few minutes, but if anyone has any possible prompts, and it's just going to be one word prompt, so like you can say determination, perseverance, so just anything like that, just feel free to enter. Just 1 or 2 words, that's it. You don't need any more. So I'm going to give you all a few minutes and then I'll share mine. Okay, I have 4 responses so far. If anyone can think of anything else, go ahead and put it in. Okay. So only 4. Does anyone have any last things they want to add before I share mine? No? Okay. So this is what I wrote down. I wrote down possible prompts would be perseverance, willing to help others, and like a lot of you said, his motivation and determination as well. And the ways we would see this is they would say something like, in a well-written essay, explain the importance of all of these words: perseverance, motivation, um, willing to help others, explain the importance of determination. So that's the kind of thing that we would look for, and we would know, hey, we can use, Jack and Draco for this example. That's kind of what I want you guys to get into the habit of doing. So I showed you one video profile journal, and I just wanted to show you another one that's a little bit different and can be used for slightly different prompts. So you have, motivation related prompts for this one. Let's look at the next person. Going back to Bhagwati Agarwal. So that's the next one that we're going to watch. That one is just another short clip as well. And let me know if you, for some reason, are not able to hear the audio.
When you grow up in one of the driest regions on Earth, you learn at a young age that water is precious. This is the truth that Bhagwati Agrawal learned as a young boy in the village located close to the Thar Desert. In that region, after the monsoon season ends, there is not a drop of rain. Its deep wells are drying up, and a lot of the water is barely drinkable. It's a hard way of life, and the responsibility to find, collect water, and bring it home is left to the women. This is how Bhagwati's mom spent her days. He'd walk with her to the well, and he drank that filthy water. He saw the other woman burdened by this responsibility, and in 2003, after a successful career working as an engineer in the United States, he decided to devote the rest of his life to providing clean water to his people. He started sustainable innovations and created a rainwater harvesting system called Akash Ganga. It collects the water from the rooftops and stores it in reservoirs. The name in Hindi is River from the Sky, and it is simple, it is beautiful, and it is genius.
As a child, every morning I will accompany my mother to fetch water. It takes hours. The sand under your feet is burning hot. It takes a lot of effort. Need to make multiple trips, and that means the whole morning is gone just to fetch water for the family. Water is so precious that they will even do their dishes with sand. The only relief is during the monsoon season when it rains. With Akash Ganga, rainwater is collected from the rooftop through gutters and pipes. It's divided in two parts. One part for the homeowner, another part for the community. Rainwater from all the houses comes down to the main pipe, which is buried under the street, which leads to the community reservoir. Now the water is right at the doorstep. The rainwater is pure, clean, safe. When the child is born, the mother will perform water washing at a local well. These people already know how important water is. So we educate them about the system.
Because the rainwater is clean, now the children don't get sick.
When we use the cultural bonds, the communities embrace the system, and then everyone takes pride in it. Having water has unburdened the women. Now they are free.
Because of the water problem, most of my daughters did not get a proper education. It used to take us 6 to 8 hours to get water. Now, it takes me 6 minutes. Now, the youngest is in college. My mind and heart are at peace.
As a boy, once I refused to help a lady at the local well. My mom was shocked, and she told me I should always be willing to help others. When I think of my mom, I become quite emotional. Here was a woman who was not educated, living in a small village, and many times I simply marvel at her wisdom. When women come to me to say thank you, it makes me proud that I kept my mother's wishes.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me honor Bhagwati Agrawal.
Clean water is freedom. For girls, it's freedom to get an education. For children and elderly, it is freedom from sickness and disease. For women, it's freedom to work. Akash Ganga, an enterprise, is bringing clean water and freedom to thousands of people in India. With your help, I can bring clean water and freedom to millions of people within my lifetime. So please join me and bring the water. Thank you.
All right. So, does anyone have anything that they wrote down that they want to share about this video? Anything at all that they put in the notes section here? Hopefully you all made the same type of video profile journal using the notes in my paragraph and the possible prompts. So in the notes section, any one sentence, a few words that anyone wrote down that they wanted to share. Okay, I have about two prompts or two sentences or ideas so far. If anyone has anything else, just feel free to type it in. Okay, I'm gonna give it about another minute, minute and a half. And it's okay if someone wrote exactly what you wanted to type or wanted to say, because remember what we're looking for is overarching ideas or really important ideas. If multiple people write the same thing, then in your on your paper, just like start, because you know that's one of the most important parts about this person's story. Okay, so let's go to, okay, so what I have written down is he lived in an arid desert. He helped his mom fill water from a well, which I saw that many of you wrote as well, and it took 6 to 8 hours to transport. So he took a lot of effort in his childhood. He was used to the hard work. His goal was to free women from fetching water to be able to pursue education. So what he did was he devoted his life to help people in his village get clean water. And to do that, he created a water system called Akash Ganga to help bring clean water to his village. So we see that he's an innovator. He's always looking for those creative solutions. And his entire goal was to fulfill his mother's dream of helping others. So we see multiple times helping others, the life lesson, like one of you mentioned, that he was taught by his mom, who said you should always be willing to help. So he was really interested in helping the community, helping others, and we can kind of make a connection between him and maybe Jack and Draca. They saw people suffering and they wanted to help them. In this case, it happened to him personally. He had to help his mom get that water. While in Jack and Draca's case, he was motivated by a close family friend who suffered from pancreatic cancer. Okay, so this is kind of what I want you guys to do, right? All the important information about this person. And at this point, when you're writing the notes, you don't really think, how can this relate to the prompt? You can do that section in the my paragraph area. But here, just write down all the things that you think would be important about his story. So what that should include would maybe be things like what his mom's name was, what his sister's name was, like what his family member's name was. But instead, it should be like this: how he helped them, how he impacted the community. That's kind of what you're looking for. Okay, now let's go to the prompt section. Does anyone have any possible prompts that they thought of while either watching this or during this section while we were going over the notes? Like any prompts that you can see that, oh, I could use this, evidence for this type of prompt. I'll give it about a minute, minute and a half, so people can go ahead and type in their one-word prompts or any words that they associated with Bhagavati Agrawal. Okay, I have about 3 so far. Does anyone else want to submit any of their prompts that they thought of? Remember, it doesn't have to be an entire phrase. It's just a few words. Okay, so I'll share what I wrote, and then we can kind of discuss it from there. So I wrote compassion, empathy, problem solving, and serving others. So you see that compassion when he sees his mom and other women and girls suffering from having to carry that water and forego their education. So you see him thinking about others, and that's how he kind of forms his solution. And that kind of goes along with serving others. Like many of you wrote helpfulness, helping others, and yeah, that's basically what his mission was. It was to help others. He was also empathetic because he was not going through those problems himself. He was able to get an education like many other girls in his village weren't able to. And he may not have suffered it to the extent that other people did, but he was able to see how other people were affected and help them. And we also saw, as we wrote in our notes, he was an innovator, he made creative solutions. So we see that problem-solving aspect. So something we might see here is explain the importance of serving others, or explain the importance of problem-solving. We see all of that as well. Okay. Remember, your evidence has to be concise, it gives the main points of something, and it's usually surface level. there's not really that much analysis going into your evidence. Okay, this is a frequently asked question. Okay, so you told us what the evidence has to be, but how do we know how many sentences it has to be? Usually your evidence would be about 1 to 2 sentences long. You don't want to make it super long, like a huge story. Okay, so in general, your evidence should be cut because you need to prove that your evidence is grounded in reality. Some of you may remember from last session we had the situation with Nate and his mom, with his mom trying to convince Nate that he should not go on a school trip to a foreign country. And it was his mom's job to use concrete examples so that her son would believe her. And at this part, move on when you're done. Once you've established a verifiable example that your claim exists, just move on. Again, we talked about that proportionate timing. You don't want to spend a disproportionate amount of time thinking about your evidence. You need to have enough time to do your entire essay fully and thoroughly. Okay, so wait for describing evidence. In the notes part of both Jack and Draka's story and Bhagwat the Agarwal story, we had that my paragraph section. And this is where you can use that short story method. It's a technique that many writers use to condense their evidence. So we say that you have to include the claim being done, how it is important, and it providing a reason. So, for example, we have the topic sentence. Greed is dangerous because it can result in a loss of trust. You can have someone being greedy, how it can be dangerous, and it resulting in a loss of trust. Because the evidence is usually 1 to 2 sentences, you would have maybe someone being greedy and it being dangerous combined into one sentence, and it resulting in a loss of trust combining in the other, or the first one is a sentence of its own, and the last 2 bullets being one sentence together. Okay, now it's your turn to write about how being cautious is important because it provides a wider range of safety. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes, or actually let's say about 3 minutes because it's a little bit longer, to form how your evidence would relate to this topic sentence using only 2 sentences. So once again, take about 2-3 minutes to do that, and then I'll share one. You don't have to wait until the 2 or 3 minutes is up. As soon as you think of your 2 sentences of evidence, just go ahead and submit it into either the Q&A or into the chat section. So remember, for this, you're just writing evidence. How you can incorporate being cautious is important because it provides a wider range of safety. What evidence can you use for that? And just write your evidence into a sentence. Okay. I don't have any responses as of now, but I really want to share how exactly you would do this and make it kind of into a paragraph. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. If during this time somebody is still typing theirs or comes up with something, just feel free to type it in and I'll, we can talk about it. Okay, so using the short story method. The example is being cautious is important because it provides a wider range of safety. Being cautious is important because it can provide a wider range of safety. That's my topic sentence. Okay, so being cautious is important because it provides a wider range of safety. That's my topic sentence. And I would say, for example, after the assassination of President Kennedy, the amount of bodyguards a president has with him increased majorly. President Trump carries around at least 8 personal bodyguards at all times in order to provide protection. So for this one, where could the evidence have been cut is a question that we need to ask. Because first of all, it includes the current politics, which we said we kind of wanted to stay away from. So we have that. And what we need to do next is we would just need to smooth out the new ending of the evidence. So now we know that we have to kind of get rid of this sentence right there. So that sentence needs to be gone. But we need some way to close it off because we only have but one sentence, which is fine, but it doesn't close off our evidence. So we would have this. This is the fixed version. And the example is, after the assassination of President Kennedy, the number of bodyguards a president has with him has increased, providing both personal safety and national security. So that's how we can fix it in the end. So now at this time, I have some homework. So what I want you to do for next week is to, in a well-written essay, discuss why lying is harmful. So with the knowledge that you have right now, so now you know how to write an introduction paragraph, you know how to come up with the reasons, write a topic sentence, and write your evidence. So now what I kind of want you to do is to write a topic sentence plus evidence in those 1 to 2 lines about why lying is harmful. So you don't have to write the entire essay, or you don't have to write the introduction paragraph and body paragraph. Just write about the topic sentence and the evidence. So a maximum of about 3 sentences for your homework. All right, so that kind of concludes everything. Does anyone have any questions about anything we have covered in this session thus far, about the homework? If you have anything, just type it either in the chat or in the Q&A and I will answer them. Okay, I don't see any questions. Thank you all for attending the writing section. the writing session this time, and hopefully we'll get one next week. I hope you all learned a lot. And remember, one tip is to write those video profile journals because they're super helpful, and they will definitely help you expand your knowledge. Once again, thank you.